a good number of participants? Yes. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the today's meeting on the use case team on ODTN, and thanks for joining. Well, the first order of business that we have to attend is that I have to present myself as the new project leader from ONF. I'll be taking over Mark's role. So as you might know, Mark had to leave the foundation for, and he's not anymore working with us. And to bring the project forward, we decided to have me as a project leader for the moment, and at least for a good period of time, so we can achieve some good results and get ODTN forward. I'm really thrilled to do this, and I really look forward to working with all of you guys. And so from now on, I'll be basically doing what Mark was doing and coordinating the project itself. So for anything, you can invite me, and you can find me on Slack. My email is, as you probably know, I've sent out the invite, but I'm gonna put it down in the notes, is Andrea@opennetworking.org, and with that, we can have any sort of discussion that you might need also privately and not shared on the mailing list. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. I'm really glad I could work with you guys, and you've done some really good and great things in phase one, as we will discuss later. So I'm really thrilled to go ahead and do phase 1.5 and phase 2 and phase 3. Okay, any questions? Okay, if not, I'm gonna go ahead and to the second point on the agenda, which is the creation of the ODTN reference design document. So as you might know, the ONF lately is basing its work on the concept of reference designs. These reference designs are some documents which are kind of a blueprint for a solution in the networking space, which brings together not the how things are done, but more the what. And in our case, the what is optical disaggregation and creating a reference platform for the optical networks in a disaggregated and open source and based on open source components. Another example of this RD reference design reference designs is SEBA, software enabled broadband access, which describes a blueprint for disaggregating and putting more software and services at the edge towards the residential customer. And so we needed to start this reference design document also because through this reference design, the service providers will base procurement on. So the supply chain will basically step up and say, okay, I am compliant with this reference design through my APIs, through my software components, so I can be part of it. And thus, the service providers will say, okay, I will buy from you because you are compliant to the reference design I'm adopting in my infrastructure. So the scope of the reference design is to define the APIs, the set of interactions that needs to be done, and what are the different components from 1,000 feet up perspective in the solution. What doesn't need to be there is, for example, that we chose ONOS, because another service provider could come in and say, okay, I don't want to have ONOS in my network. I want something there which is what we call the ODTN controller, which exposes the same API. the clue, the important thing here is that we are choosing a set of APIs, OpenConfig and TAPI at this moment, and in the future probably OpenRODUM, that if you're compliant with those, you're going to be pluggable with ODTN on the southbound from a device perspective. You're going to be pluggable with ODTN from the northbound from a service level perspective. And the piece in the middle needs to understand these two. So in our case, we chose ONOS as the reference implementation for the ODTN reference design, but somebody else might go and choose another controller or other components. So this document, I'm starting putting together a draft, and I've shared the draft with ONF partners because the reference design is for partners only at the moment. I believe some of you have received an email with the first draft of the reference design, and that reference design captures all the ideas behind ODTN. And at some point, we will be able to share it with the broader community. But for the first draft, it's members only. This is the ONF policy. What is in the document, I can share a bit about it, is the requirements that the service provider like NTT has for ODTN being put into his their production network. So the reference design will contain the different approaches ODTN took. For example, it already describes phase 1, and it describes phase 1.5 and phase 2. I condensed that a little bit. And it also describes the key elements around configuration that we need to do, such as rollback, dry run, plug and play, and all of that. And it also describes the models and APIs that we're going to use. So it obviously it's OpenConfig on the southbound towards the devices, TAPI on the southbound towards the OLS, and in the future maybe OpenRODUM towards the RODUMs on the southbound. And then it describes TAPI as the API for the northbound. So basically, it's the charter of the project. As you know, even if it's not shared, this is what we're going to follow towards the completion. But it's nothing different from what the already existing guideline was. So we're just going to pursue through phase 1.5 and phase 2. Bill, anything to share more on the reference design? Did I miss anything important?
No, I'd say I'd turn it out to the community and see if there's any questions in the community about it.
It would be nice to ask questions about it, but we don't have it.
Sorry, who's
I meant questions just about what Andrea has gone through, not about the reference design.
That's Stefan Salara from Infinera that asked that question.
Oh, okay, thanks. It's as I said, it's members only, and I believe you are partnering with NTT for this project, so you can ask details also to them. But the document itself, I personally cannot share with you because it's partners only and members only. So that's the thing. Anybody else has any questions? What I can say is that really it doesn't divert from the path that we chose with ODTN in the sense of phase 1, phase 1.5, phase 2, and phase 3. And it doesn't change anything. It's just a way of packaging it. And as soon as we have a first draft, which at some point in time in the future, we will be able to share with the community. I'm not going to make any promises regarding the time, but it's going to come, and it's not going to come in the too late. Questions? Then I'll go forward towards the other agenda points, which is the phase 1.0 demo wrap-up. So since I came in and joined the team last Monday, I worked very closely with Hiroki from NTT, who is on the call. And we managed to get together, thanks to him, a document and to capture a video of phase 1.5 of ODTN based on the NTT deployment and test with Infinera devices. So the wiki page with the instructions to like do this phase 1.0 demo, it's already up, and I'm gonna just put the link next to the agenda. Let me do that. Sorry. Yes. So this is the wiki page, and it describes in detail how to achieve the demo based on Infinera XT 3300. The only thing that we do not share here is the emulator. So, like for example, with Telefonica, you would have to run this on your Nokia device, or NTT might also run it on. The demo was also run on NEC devices, but we cannot share the emulator. So the instructions will be the same, but it will just use a different driver for your device, and you will be able to showcase this demo. I'm just gonna put the link. We are currently in the process of creating a video for it. I mean, there is a video. We just need to review it and make sure it's okay for public consumption. And after that, we will share the video too. And we will probably do a blog post about the success of phase 1 with based upon this demo. So, and that would be also a good thing to have, because it's a fixed point in time where when we said ODTN achieved X, Y, and Z, basically. So thanks a lot to Hiroki and to the folks in Infinera for providing the simulator. Any questions? I got a message. Oh, thanks, Hiroki, for sharing the wiki page also on the chat. Any questions on the demo? No? Okay. So I'll draft the blog post myself, probably in close future when the video will be shareable, and I will share the blog post with everybody. Another thing which I forgot to put here, actually, let me do this. So along with the discussions we had on the future of ODTN in the sense of phase 1.0, 1.5, and 2.0, internally at ONF, we're also discussing what is the proper way of handling configuration, because as we've seen in phase 1, and as it was reported to me, there were some, say, lacking components in the current and existing set of tool chains and store and elements for the configuration inside ONOS. And that is definitely a problem, because a lot of these devices do require very specific configuration for achieving their results. So what we at ONF are thinking is putting together a plan for handling those elements for configuration, which might divert a little bit from the existing dynamic configuration subsystem. That plan is also coming together in about a month, and we will share that plan with everybody so I can get everybody's feedback. And that plan is something that we want to develop, or like at least implement, in order to achieve every configuration goal that everybody in this team has. So I would like the opinion of everybody here when I share the document, and I'll make sure that the document gets to you at the proper time. And that is for for example, supporting dry run, device plug and play, and a more schema agnostic way of storing, delta-based approach. And it's also very interesting because we're not building this or not refactoring this and implementing this alone, but we're getting the help of the UPAN team. The UPAN is another RD, reference design. It's unified programmable. Forgot the acronym. Sorry, but it's what comprises a Stratum. So the new device agent with P4 runtime, GNMI, and GNOI. And we're getting their help because they also have to do a lot of configuration through GNMI for the devices. So it's going to be something that we build together with them, which is great. So now, since we wrapped up phase 1 with the demo and
sorry, Andrea.
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was trying to get off mute there. So you said you're working with UPen. Can you tell me who you're working at UPen with?
Oh, Brian O'Connor from the Open Networking Foundation.
I'm sorry, Brian
O'Connor. I think he heard.
O'Connor. Oh, yeah.
I think he heard UPenn, like UPENN, as opposed to UPAN, which is UPAN.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I see.
My pronunciation might have been off. I'm talking about
No, that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's another reference design from the Open Networking Foundation.
I see.
And since it needs some components into ONOS to properly configure, as I said, the devices, we're going to build with them or at least with their help, a common configuration element that addresses the problems that we have seen in the dynamic configuration subsystem at the moment. Okay, so looking ahead on phase 1.5, etc., I wanted to briefly discuss and touch up what is the current state of drivers into ONOS for the transponders based on OpenConfig. So as far as I know, we have the NEC driver inside ONOS, which is merged. We have parts of the Infinera driver which are merged and parts which are not. And I know Kwan is working on the Nokia driver, which is sitting in Gerrit, with some comments from me and Yuta. These are the drivers I know of. So I wanted to get an update on the Infinera driver, which I know Hiroki is working with, right?
Yes, yeah.
So when will that be finished / merged, or at least pushed to get it?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. My question was, what's the timeline?
So maybe in a couple of weeks we can upload it and share with you.
Okay.
And before the discussion of ODTN phase 1 to 5, I'd like to ask Telefonica and Nokia guys about your lab trial and your activity for the ODTN phase 1.0 and your about your implementation, how you implement the ODTN phase 1.0 test code, and I'd like to discuss about how to collaborate and LTDCOM and ONF's implementation for the ODTN phase 1.0 and your implementation and for the 1.0.
Hi, Hiroki. This is Arturo speaking. So basically, we didn't yet any tests for the phase 1.0 with the ONOS implementation in Telefonica. What we have done so far is basically to implement netcom and OpenConfig clients by Telefonica in order to test the interface of the transponders of Nokia and other vendors. So our main objective it was to, in the scope of an RFI that we launched in Telefonica, to discover or to analyze which was the real support of the industry for the standard models, how every different company that we invited to the RFI was implementing these models, basically because our perception of these approaches that everyone is using the models in a different way, or they are somehow implementing the use cases that we were proposing in a different way. So so far we adapt to, let's say, the implementation of the vendors, and we analyzed the standard use that they give to the models. So let's say that what we have is basically a set of clients with a set of sample configurations based on OpenConfig in XML that they basically fulfill a set of use cases that are very aligned with phase 1.0. But we didn't use a standard or open source SDN controller to do that. It's pretty, let's say, manual configuration or manual testing with some scripts based on standard netconf library. So we didn't hear about the demo, let's say, activity about phase 1.0 until today. So my idea was that now that there is this documentation available, I will check it on that, and I will give some comments for sure in the next section, because we are pretty much interested also on, as Andrea has mentioned it, to maybe try Nokia plugin or Nokia driver, as we have already a lab set up with them, and I think it will be feasible to run a demo or a trial, let's say, a set with the devices that we have in the lab.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Thanks for sharing that, and it will be interesting also to know the results of your testing in terms of compliance with OpenConfig, in order for the broader community to know what can and cannot be used, for example, with ODTN itself, which is something that we really want, because I believe that bill of materials would be very useful, in the sense that, for example, we say, okay, if you use ONOS, you currently have in the ONOS repository these 5 drivers, let's say Infinera, then NEC, then Nokia, then others, and with those and you can buy those devices, put it in your network, and it's going to be compliant with the project. So that would be actually good to know, if you could share that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and,
well, actually,
no, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, what we are seeing that let's say maybe is a little bit different our approach that the one that is going in ODTN, and that's why we didn't, let's say, do a proper demo activity within ODTN so far. It's because our understanding it was that the implementation should not be, let's say, depending on deviations from the standard in base of drivers and so on, but we were more interested on, let's say, specifying I'm going to say universal driver that is using the standard models in a proper way, and which will be, I mean, desirable that different vendors will implement the same driver, let's say, because otherwise we are going into a direction that is going to probably leading into a a newer version of the hardware. It's going to use a different newer version of the driver, and you will be whole life integrating with new versions that are depending on the vendor implementation. So our idea so far it was to understand exactly how to use this technology, this model and this interface in order to let's say find which are the deviations, which are the points on which different vendors are doing things different. And I think that we can give feedback about that with the experience that we acquired in the previous months, and I think that is going to be valuable for sure for ODTN, because even if we keep from now the approach of these behaviors, and then based on that behaviors specific drivers for the different equipment, as much as we can accommodate the implementation or the way that these OpenConfig models can be used, I think that is going to be better for everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I believe that the OpenConfig set of models should be a fixed one, and we should agree even on a version of those OpenConfig models. But I also think that we should be capable, and ONOS is capable of dealing with nuances of the devices. And for example, if you pick Nokia, and Nokia has a different nuance from the Infinera device, we should be able to support that in ODTN, because otherwise we're not allowing vendor-specific elements, and that might be a little bit of a problem. But I do agree that the basic set of functionality should be there on a standard model and a defined version.
Yeah, let's say that at least let's say the common part from all drivers should be I don't know, 80% of the implementation. I mean, I can understand that specifically in the optical transport segment there is much let's say specific configurations that different vendors are doing, for instance, in terms of forward error code corrections and other kind of specifics of the signal that the vendors are transmitting and so on. And this is something that it is even not, let's say, very narrowed down in OpenConfig. It's quite open and it can be allowed, but well, as much as possible, we should understand what how to, I don't know, to make a chain in the different layers of the photonic layer, for instance, or how to translate from Ethernet client ports into lambdas and things like this. That until now, I think that different vendors have different ideas on how to do it. And I think it's normal because the technology is there and it is not really, let's say, fixed or closed in order to specify how to do that. But I think that it will be a good idea to analyze all together this with the models in front in order to agree on a, let's say, common or reference design, how you have specified for in the document. That I think is a very good idea. What you were mentioning, that the APIs were going to be there and so on, I think that somehow is a work that we have been done, and we are from Telefonica willing to share with you in order to show you how we understand that sample use cases could be done in terms of the different configurations that need to be made and so on, and we can discuss and we can agree on something that is going to be, let's say, common for everyone.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's great.
Andrea.
Yes.
Regarding the drivers, just to let you know that we are also working on an OpenConfig driver and within the Metro project, and so after a check with the other project members, I guess we can contribute it to the Garrett, and so to contribute to the project. If you are interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can you put the details of the version of the models and the calls that you are going to support in the document, or at least send an email with them?
Sure, I can.
Thanks. I see Kwam is on the call. Can you give us an update on the state of the Nokia driver and how much aligned it is with the OpenConfig models?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Kwan, go ahead.
Okay, so for the Nokia driver, so currently I'm working on trying to finish the drivers and try to set up the demo for the phase 1 based on the wiki provided by entity. So I think by earlier next week it should be done, and I will try to submit a patch on the garage.
Okay, that's great. That's really good. That's really good. Thanks, Kwam. Okay. Yeah, and thanks, Roman, for sharing the link to the standard driver. I'm just gonna drop it here. Okay, thanks for that. So I know now we have to go into phase 1.5, and here please correct me if I am missing any pieces, I'm not understanding anything, since this is my first call and I just joined the project. I tried to understand as much as I could with the help of Hiroki and other people, but if I say something wrong or it's like somebody doesn't agree with what I say, please stop me and correct me. So in phase 1.5.
Sorry, you hear me? I was just disconnected. This is Ramon speaking.
Hey, Ramon.
It was just a comment about the OpenConfig driver, but I had a failure of my headset and I couldn't comment. What I pasted, it's the implementation of OpenConfig. This is something that I did with Utah. And the idea here was to support a driver that it was not necessarily vendor specific. So that's supposed to be based on our understanding of the OpenConfig model. Right now, it's only the behavior, the discovery of the behavior. The missing piece before I went on a leave was we didn't have a clear definition across the vendors of what activating the service meant. So this is still an ongoing, and we should resume there. What do we understand by activating a service? Because it was very vendor specific, whether we have to define logical channels or logical channels were assumed to be defined, that kind of things were not done. And this is something that I believe we should resume from here.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead.
If you want, I can start an email thread around this on the ODTN discussion mailing list, and everybody can chime in and give his own opinion, and we can reassess it next week.
Yeah, because right now what it does, it's basically discovering, following all the agreements that we had done of tagging the ports, tagging, and this is something that any vendor has to follow to be generic driver. And then the second one was precisely this. So it should be great if you could kickstart a thread. Even if I'm expecting some of the partners to go on holiday. I don't know if you plan to discuss if there will be a holiday break or well, we can talk about this.
We can definitely put this on the agenda. Let me do that. Okay. So regarding phase 1.5, My understanding was that since the vote that was posted down in the south, on the southern part of this document, everybody wanted to go with option A. Option A was having the OLS being controlled by ONOS with TAPI, but expose itself as a kind of a big switch, in the sense that it has an input port and output port, and everything is done inside the OLS for path computation. Was this understanding correct?
Yes.
Are you sure? We want to do the path computation on the OLS? That's what you voted, guy?
Well, basically, there were some options, and yes, option A was the most, let's say, conservative. That was basically assuming that the path computation was going to be done within the OLS from now. But well, this is what it was voted 2 weeks ago. Let me specify a bit what it was the discussion around. So basically, what we say that from now the current status of the Transport API, that is basically the interface that's going to be used to communicate ODTN controller with the vendors OLS controllers, was going to be TAPI 2.0.2, and based on that, well, still the photonic layer is not yet defined. So well, basically you will be able to, let's say, select the paths and abstracted layer. We assume that the TAPI can allow you to do that, but you cannot, let's say, specify, for instance, which is the lambda that you want to choose. So let's say that in terms of path computation in the optical layer, the interface that we were assuming for this phase is limited. So this is one of the main reasons what we choose, I think, this approach and not other. There were a slight deviation between.
You select the wavelength. You have to communicate the wavelength from the orchestrator to the transponder. So you have to be aware of that thing. It's the job of the orchestrator to do that.
Yes, but you can request sorry. I mean, you can request the media channel to the OLS, and based on that, you can configure the transponder. Basically, this is what we, I mean, what it is allowing you, TAPI right now. TAPI is allowing you to request an intent-based connectivity service, and based on that, once the optical line system controller computes the path and create the media channel, you are going to see in the connection endpoints information, which is the lambda that has been selected for that media channel. And this is all the exposition to the photonic layer that is allowing you TAPI right now. Otherwise, let's say that the solution or the other alternative was to wait until the work that is being doing now in TAPI for the let's say TAPI version 2.1 was going to be ready, and based on that, it will be possible to make much complex path computations from the ODTN controller.
But anyway, the phase 1.5 is a point-to-point system, so there's no path computation inside it.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. Exactly. So there's no path computation inside it. You just need to be able to know what is the wavelength that is available.
Yes, if you, let's say, I mean, the idea is that the phase 1.5, what it is extending is that you are assuming that there is a line system and a line system in the middle, that there are ROADMs in the middle. So the only limitation that you will have in terms of the phase 1.5 is that probably you will not be able to make the physical impairments validation of the line system before to configure the transponders. And this is the limitation that we show and we discussed in the previous weeks.
I do understand the problem. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Andrea, so you go and show option A, B, and C, and what is this thing is documented?
That thing is within the slides that are describing the discussions and the use cases.
Let me try and bring those up. No, oops, that was not what I expected.
If you can just add this thing in the minute, that would be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to get to. So I think it's in this this folder. Phase 1.5 discussion is one of these, probably. Maybe the recent one. This, July 17, this one. Is this presentation we're talking about?
I put it in the chat, yes. No, there is a newer one. It's in the chat.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you can just add the link to the.
Yeah, I'll do that right now. Oh, it's in the materials side. Close. So I have a question for everybody here. I mean, what we are also striving to achieve is a deployable solution in the network of service providers such as Telefonica and NTT. My question is, what OLS are you currently using in your networks? Or what do you plan to use with ODTN? Because as before, I want to make sure that the APIs we choose which is TAPI, is also compliant with the elements that you plan to put in your network. So as for the devices, we were saying, okay, we support these 5-6 devices for ODTN. I might also want to say we support these 5-6 OLSs with ODTN, like 2 or 3.
Let me answer that one. Okay. The problem that you have in the industry is if you want to go and talk to equipment level, there's so many of them in the open system, in the optical system, for the transmission. That's become it will become a nightmare.
Yes.
So we can go and agree on the transponder side and say we define interface, we make it standard. We will go and control the transponder through, say, an OpenConfig and from an orchestrator. From the point of view of the transmission system, you have a transmission domain. You can go and say, oh, currently we have domain of optical transport. We go to a controller, that is the OLS controller, through a TAPI interface, and we're able to go and set up traffic for spectrum between 2 endpoints. So that's what we can go and build to isolate from the different devices that exist in the network through using a controller, a DOLS controller.
Yes.
In the system.
Okay, but to my knowledge, there are existing OLS controllers out there, right?
Yes, people
have
done their own stuff. What is not common is the interface of this controller.
Okay.
And that's why we are pushing to go and have a TAPI interface from to be used as a standard interface for an OLS controller.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. We've seen transponders with OpenConfig interfaces, which are the ones we support for ODTN. So are there any OLSs that already implement TAPI 2.0.2 for provisioning the OLS and the underlying devices, such as the ROADMs and all of that?
There's some. I don't think there is. I don't know. We have to go and query for all the different vendor.
Okay. But for example, you are from Infinera. Is Infinera having anything like this?
Commercially product, no.
Okay.
Because we're still waiting. We're still defining the TAPI interface for the photonic layer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think that just to express a little bit my my perception. So we have introduced this, let's say, disaggregation concepts like this year, and what we have been, let's say, trying with vendors is the use of TAPI for aggregated segments. So there is support for TAPI 2.0. Right now, we saw some implementations that are, let's say, able to set up A-level services or media channels from line ports of the OLSs with TAPI 2.0, but still yet is well, a debate between, I mean, which is the final definition of the TAPI, and specifically this new version that is going to extend very much the support of TAPI for the photonic layer is making the vendors to, let's say, to dab about to wait until this new version of TAPI is going to be properly defined in order to implement that. So let's say that we are in an interim. There are people or there are companies that has this already implemented, that they have shown us some support of the use cases of the disaggregation with TAPI, but there are also other vendors that are saying, wait, but I mean, we still didn't finish this yet because TAPI is still ongoing, and this photonic layer definition is crucial for us in order to properly define the behavior of the open line system controller based on that interface.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I do understand. So from Telefónica's and NTT's perspective, and all of you guys here, what are the current steps forward? So as my understanding is that we should define TAPI as soon as possible.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So this topic, and we've been doing that for last 3, 4 months, 5 months. So originally, when we did this, I would say, schedule in TAPI, we had much fewer contributors, and so we are more confident that time that we could get it out, say, last month. But since it's gotten more popular, we got more contributors in, which means more consensus building, right?
Yes.
So it's both good and bad. So right now, like I see on my table, like there are 3 proposals of detailed photonic attributes coming from 3 different companies or operators or vendors, right? So now that's where the problem is. The problem is good that there is more people contributing, but consensus building takes a little bit more time now.
Okay, and those proposals are option A, B, and C?
Oh, no. It has nothing to do with option A, B, and C.
Okay.
These are like, we are doing APIs, so we are looking at APIs, and it's a question of what attributes need to be exposed, what attributes don't need to be exposed, what you specify in the service, and so on.
Okay, would be good.
So that's all part of TAPI 2.1. So originally, when this project was ODTN 1.5, we are scoping, like we said, TAPI 2.1 would be ready last month, right? But it's delayed by a month, I would say. So it will, I would say the first RC candidate I would say it will be sometime either end of this month or a little bit early of next month, the release candidate, right? But just so you know, like that's not because we are not working on it. It's just that now we have more people, so that means more debates.
Okay, that is understandable. One question is, could you share these proposals?
Yeah. It's all on GitHub. It's on ONOS GitHub. Everything is open source. It's on TAPI is an ONOS project, so everything is open.
Yeah.
And
can you drop
the link is some? Yeah, the links are out here. I mean, it used to be the meeting minutes.
Oh yeah.
The contributions all are open. So all the contributions are available publicly on ONF.
We're talking about this
wiki, right?
Yeah.
As well as there is a GitHub which has the models.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about.
So these are the presentations.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we are not discussing option A, B, C. We are just discussing the API and TAPI, right? The details.
Yeah.
The models and the details.
Yeah, what I would
the
like.
Use cases itself would be one of those three, but we can support all the three basically.
Okay, but what I would like to see is these three options that you were talking about, like presented to the community.
Right.
Is that possible?
So that's what we do in TAPI calls. When I say three contributions, three contributions. So we would welcome like anybody to join TAPI call, which is on Tuesdays.
Before this call, basically.
Yes, just right before the call, right. Sometimes you overrun.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then this needs, if anybody wants to chime in there, it's probably, I'll just gonna put it.
Fully open, and yeah.
Okay, thanks
also,
for that.
There's also a GitHub repository where we actually maintain the models and so on. The wiki is more for paper contributions. The GitHub is for UMLs, Yangs, open APIs, and so on. The code aspects of this.
Okay. So thanks for that. I think we're almost at the end of the meeting time, and I wanted to discuss a few next steps. I mean, we're reconvening next week, so that's good. Few next steps is that by next week, I would like to have a better grasp on the drivers piece. Like with updates from everybody, like Hiroki for Infinera and Juan for Nokia and Alessio for the OpenConfig in the Metro Hall project. And I'm gonna start the email thread regarding what it means for each vendor to define a service for the standard OpenConfig driver. I would like Telefonica to share the results of the testing they have done and try the demo with the Nokia driver when it's ready, and share those details. I will also draft a blog post and share it with everybody here on phase 1.0. And if by next week we also have the demo with the Nokia drivers, we can also share that one in the same blog post, which would be great, I believe. And I will participate in the TAPI call next week. And in the meantime, if everybody could please go and like give his opinion on the TAPI modeling that is happening based on the resources that we've put in here, that would be great. Or actually, if anybody could send out an email with a set of links, would even be better, because they probably don't know all the material. Could somebody do that?
Sure, I can do that for the material, right? You're talking about TAPI material?
Yes, TAPI material.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, this Karthik, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thanks for that. And I guess that also is the other point. So I was in doubt about that modeling effort, and I think we are clarifying it. So last point, holiday break. Any comments / suggestions? I mean, I am on PTO the week of middle of August, but I could still hold the call since I have internet connection. It would not be a problem. Does anybody have a hard break or would have a hard time participating in the meeting And if yes, when would that be, that break? Thoughts?
This is Ramon. I can start myself since I proposed it. My colleagues and myself, we are going on holiday next week. I will try to join the conference call anyway and be back on mid-August. This is a typical summer break that we are supposed to have.
I see. Anybody else?
If it's just me, then that's great.
Then I guess we will still hold the call, and because I will be always available to chair it, so I'll be chairing the call. And worst case, if somebody cannot participate, we will go forward with the updates on other project or other components, and not the ones that these people that couldn't participate are gonna do. And as always, we will record them, so if anybody cannot participate, I'd like them to hear the recording and look at the meeting notes that we put together. So thanks a lot for the discussion, and thanks for welcoming me in the project. It's a pleasure, and I hope we can do well together. If anybody has any other points we need to discuss today? If not, thanks everybody for joining, and everybody has his own action points and things to do by next week call, and we can meet again next week. So thanks everybody.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.